How is it possible that I go down to the bottom of a deep pool without pinching my nose and without floating back up? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's take a look at the video. This is me in Nemo 33 going down. And this is a video that went viral on Instagram, over 3 million views. And the number one question I got from you guys and girls that is, Gert, how do you do this? How come you don't float back up? Don't you have to equalize? Because I don't see you pinching your nose. So all these questions we're going to talk about in this stream. So first of all, no weights. So I am not using any weights. Now, of course, you can use weights, and that's what people told me. Gert, why don't you just use weights? It's so much easier. Well, not really. It's not that simple. So when you use weights, you have to go back up again. So I'm not using fins here. So if you don't use fins, it's quite difficult to go back up. And also, if you do use weights, you don't really know how much weights you have to use. And I can tell you, when you're down there at the bottom of a deep pool and you have weights on you, and this might be an unpleasant surprise. So it's just easier not to use weights, at least if you know how to use the technique. And second, I think it's just more cool if you know how to do this without weights. So the question is, how do you do this without weights? So second thing to keep in mind is that I'm doing this in fresh water. So salt water has more density. Salt water is more dense. So in fresh water, you sink more easily. Most people don't know that, but if you go to a swimming pool with fresh water, you will sink just easier than in the ocean, because salt water is more dense. It's like you're in some kind of jelly. I'm exaggerating, but ocean water is more thick than water from a swimming pool. So that actually facilitates your descent. So let's talk about how I'm actually doing this. So you might have guessed it already. I am exhaling. Now, there's way more to it than just saying, oh, you have to exhale and that's how you do it. So there is a whole science behind it. So first of all, let's talk a bit about FRC and RV. So what is FRC? Functional residual capacity. So this is the amount of air that is still in your lungs after you do a passive exhalation. So a passive exhalation is like this. So it's not a forceful exhalation, it's just a passive exhalation. So after you take a full breath, and then you just open your mouth and you let it all out, that is a passive exhalation, FRC. So yes, that is already exhaling, but you can go further than that. You can do RV, which is residual volume. So when you do residual volume, you're going to forcefully exhale. So you're going beyond that point of FRC, beyond the point of a passive exhalation. So you're going to force out all air out of your lungs until you can't anymore. So that is the most amount of air you can get out of your lungs. So I'm going to demonstrate this now. So I take a full breath first, and then I will do a RV, a forceful exhalation. And then I have to breathe in again. So this was forceful exhalation. Obviously, on RV, you're exhaling way more air than on FRC. So what am I doing in this pool? Well, before I shot this video, I tested this a couple of times, of course, because you don't know about your buoyancy. You don't know how fast you're going to sink. So you have to try this out a couple of times. So first you try with FRC, passive exhalation. And then if you don't sink fast enough or you don't sink at all, then you exhale a little bit more. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be RV, because that is really an advanced technique. And if you are a beginner, I would not advise you to try this at all without proper tuition. So this is more for advanced freedivers. But I want to tell you how to do this. So maybe if one day you decide to follow a freediving course, then you know that this is possible. So if FRC doesn't work, if it is not enough to get you sinking, then you exhale a little bit more. So you do FRC, a little bit more, and then you see if you sink enough. If it's still doesn't work, if you still don't sink fast enough or you don't sink at all, then you exhale a little bit more, sometimes even to the point of a full RV. All right? So that is how you sink to the bottom of a pool. Now let's continue talking about this, because besides exhaling, there is another thing that you have to know, and that is, as deeper you go, the more deep you go, the more your lungs will become compressed. So the less volume there will be in your lungs. So at the surface, you have 1 bar, 1 atmospheric pressure. Your lungs are the natural normal volume as they are now. If you go 10 meters deep, you will experience 2 bar of pressure. That is twice the pressure there is on the surface, which means that your lungs, the volume of your lungs, will shrink with 50%. So if your lungs are this at the surface, there will be half of it at 10 meters of depth. So the volume of lungs at 10 meters of depth is half of it. The volume of the amount of air you have in your lungs at 10 meters depth is half of what you have on the surface, which means that you are more negatively buoyant at 10 meters. All right? You understand that? So the deeper you go, the more your lungs, they will compress, and the more you will start sinking. So the point that is the most difficult to start sinking is, of course, at the surface, because at the surface, you are the most positively buoyant. You basically don't sink. Even if you've done FRC or a bit more than FRC, or even to the point of RV, it might still be a bit difficult, depending on your personal buoyancy, to sink. And your personal buoyancy, I mean with that the composition of your body, because the amount of fat and muscle we have in our bodies, and also our bone density, decides on how fast or not we sink. So all of this you have to try out. So the deeper you go, the more easily you will sink. So if you take a look again at the video, I'll start playing it now, you will see that I'm like giving myself a momentum. I'm like using my arms on the first meter to get me down, because those first 1, 2, 3 meters are the most difficult ones. I will sink maybe a little bit, but not that fast. And for the sake of the video, I want to keep things going. So I give myself some momentum. And once I am at 3, 4, 5 meters, I start sinking more easily. So here we see that again. I'm pretty slow. And now I'm starting to sink faster and faster. The deeper I go, the more my lungs will become compressed, the less volume of air I have in there. And when I reach the bottom, I am already going faster, and I become totally negatively buoyant. All right. So now the next question you can ask me is, okay, so we get it. So you're exhaling, so you basically don't have air in your lungs, or minimal air. So how do you equalize? Because as you go deeper, the pressure from the water increases, and you have to equalize your ears. You have to clear your ears. If you don't do that, because of the pressure of the water, your eardrum eventually will bend inwards, and if you don't equalize your ears, you will rupture your eardrum. Obviously, you have to avoid that situation. And you need air. You need air from your lungs to bring towards your inner ear to equalize that pressure. So if you don't have air, then it's impossible. That's for advanced freedivers. When you dive like really deep, at some point equalization stops. It becomes their limiting factor, and that is because they simply do not have any air left to bring towards their ears to equalize. So how am I equalizing here? Well, first of all, you see that I am not pinching my nose. So I'm not doing the typical Frenzel or Valsalva. I am doing hands-free. So hands-free equalization is any type of equalization that you use when you are not using your hands. That's why it's called hands-free. Now, in freediving, when we say hands-free, we usually refer to BTV, the voluntary opening of the eustachian tubes. Now, how do we do that? It is by controlling certain muscles in here that open these tubes. So the tubes are tubes that we need to bring air from here, from the nasal cavity, towards the ears. If we don't know how to open the eustachian tubes, then we cannot equalize. So the method I am using is not BTV, voluntary opening of the tubes, because I don't know how to do that, and it takes years and years of practice, And many freedivers, they try for years and they never know how to do it. So I'm one of them. Apparently it's only a select few that know how to do this, although I'm well aware of the fact that there are freediving instructors who claim that they can teach everyone how to do a BTV. Well, I haven't I haven't learned it yet. So, but I use another way to do this, and that is I'm trying to get this video back here, and that is by swallowing. So when I make a little saliva and I swallow, it opens up the eustachian tube, so I equalize my ears. So that's how easy it is. I've always been able to do this, but I do realize that this does not work for everyone. If you want to have more information about swallowing to clear your ears, you can search for my video hands-free equalization and type my name, Gert Leroy, hands-free equalization, and you will come to that video. I'm going to quickly get this video back because for some reason the video disappeared, and I hope we will have it back. There it is. There it is. So that's how I equalize without pinching my nose. It is by simply swallowing. And to make the swallow possible, I make a little saliva and then I swallow that down. Okay, so now you have reached the bottom. How are you going to go back up, right? So swimming back up is it might be an issue if you are not trained for this. So that's why I'm not advising anyone to do this. You have to be a skilled freediver, you have to be an advanced freediver, and you have to progress gradually. So instead of trying to go to the bottom of a pool immediately, you might want to try first like 1 or 2 meters, 3 meters, and see if you can swim back up. Because if you are at that bottom, and by the way, this is not the deepest pool of Nemo 33 because that would be 33 meters. This is like a smaller pool on the sides, which is probably around 12, 13, 14 meters. So how do you swim back up from there? No fins on total empty lungs. So you will already have contractions probably there. You will already feeling the urge to breathe strongly because, well, you are on something between FRC and RV, possibly full RV. So when you have to swim back up with absolutely no air in your lungs, that is something that you really have to train for. So be very, very cautious when you do this and train your no fins technique, swimming back up first on full lungs, of course, before you even think about trying this. All right, guys, that is it. Peace in every breath.